My wife, the CEO, announced her engagement to her CFO while still married to me on a giant lobby sign at her headquarters. My name's Russell Claiborne. Folks call me Russ. I'm 59 years old. And if you'll sit with me a spell, I'll tell you how I went from a man staring at a glass wall with a sign that flipped my world to the guy who took down a fake fairy tale using receipts, not rage, chain of title, not chainsaws. Real revenge is quiet, patient, and all paperwork. I decided to visit my only wife at her job as a CEO. At the entrance, there was a sign that said, "Congratulations to our CEO, Maya C. Rivers, engagement celebration tonight." Script font, gold balloons, a little heart icon next to Jonas H. It looked like a Pinterest board vomited on a lobby. I stood there with a little velvet box in my pocket, her mother's locket I'd just had cleaned, and watched a security guard stick out a hand like I was a teenager trying to sneak into prom. "Sir, building's closed for a private event." "Private event," I said, reading the sign again real careful, like maybe there was a footnote, except if the CEO forgot to file for divorce. There wasn't. I laughed that laugh men do when the boiling starts under your ribs. The guard, kid with a kind face, looked between the sign and my face and something clicked for him. He went red. I'm just doing my job." I put my hands up, palms out. "I'm not here to cause a scene, son. This is my wife's company. Maya Rivers. I stopped myself from saying husband because that word had just been drop-kicked into traffic by a gold foil balloon. "I'm family." He scanned something on the tablet. I have an entry here, sir. It says," he swallowed. "It says, do not admit R. Claiborne without legal escort." He winced. "Says you've been in crisis." That was the first punch I didn't see coming. "In crisis," I repeated, tasting the phrase. Corporate poet made that one up. Got it. I stepped outside into the Austin heat. Even at 6 p.m., it sat on your shoulders like a wet dog. I walked back to my truck and sat with the locket in my hand and realized this was what betrayal looks like in 2025. An HR note on a tablet and a sign in script font. Not a gun in an alley. A party with canapes. I didn't text. I didn't call. I drove to the far end of the parking lot overlooking a little strip of hill country and let the first wave hit. Hurt, humiliation, that nonsense loop your brain plays called "What Did I Miss?" Then I turned the key and went home. The next morning, a courier dropped off a manila envelope at my door. Inside, divorce papers, a mutual non-disparagement draft, a note that said, "Let's keep this clean, Russ. We've grown in different directions." No signature, just her initials in that CEO scrawl the board loves. And stapled to the back, an IP assignment confirmation with my name typed neat as a church bulletin. Confirming prior assignment of influx array prototypes to Luminera Therapeutics Incorporated, dated June 2016. My signature neat too. Only one problem. I didn't sign it. You want to know who I was before the sign? I'll give it to you straight. I'm a garage guy who married a star. I fix things for a living. HVAC, restaurant walk-ins, that AC unit in your office that rattles like a shopping cart until you talk nice to it and change a $12 part nobody else thought about. I've got what my daddy called farmer hands and a head for tinkering. My wife, Maya, she was the kind of brilliance folks write profiles about. Small-town valedictorian, Stanford bioengineering, MBA at UT just for fun because sleep is for the dead. The first cocktail party I ever went to with her, I stood there in a borrowed blazer nursing a beer while a venture capitalist talked about runway and burn rate, and I thought we were discussing actual airports and arson. We met at a busted vending machine. True story. She'd smacked it. I'd popped the panel and freed a Tootsie Roll like I'd pulled a carrot from the earth. She laughed like church bells. We didn't fit on paper, but we fit in a kitchen at midnight, both of us barefoot, me teaching her to make my mom's biscuits, her teaching me why yeast is moody. She ideated. I executed. She'd draw a doodle of something with tubes and a little pump. I'd go build it at my workbench. That's how Influx Array was born. Not that you've heard of it. That's an internal name. Forget me mixing trade secrets. I'm careful. But I can tell you the shape. A clever, cheap, portable infusion system for rural clinics where central lines and big pumps are a luxury. The usual pumps cost more than a used Camry. Ours used off-the-shelf parts and a design that made FDA folks smile instead of frown. Garage engineering ain't always duct tape. Sometimes it's clean. In 2016, Maya founded Luminera Therapeutics, rented a broom closet near South Congress, and started building the empire. We had a handshake rule. She ran the company, I kept my job and my identity separate, but the garage prototypes were ours. When she raised seed money, their lawyers handed me a mountain of paper to sign. I read what I could, got overwhelmed, and asked one question that saved me. What am I assigning? The counsel said, any IP you created for the company. I said, garage stuff I made before Luminera isn't for the company. That's mine and hers, personal. They nodded like bobbleheads. We didn't sign that life away. Fast forward, Luminera sprouted wings. Series A, Series B, whiteboards cleaned, scientists showing up with fresh PhDs and expensive coffee. I kept my work boots on and my mouth shut. We were proud in the way married people are proud when one of you outkicks your coverage. Then the fancy started to sour. Dinners turned into meetings she took with earbuds in. Vacations were offsites with investors who wear vests. She came home smelling like hotel soap and stress, talking about the SPAC. I didn't know a SPAC from a spatula back then. It means we're going to go public through a deal that looks like a shortcut. The CFO on those calls? Jonas Hale. Teeth too white for his skin, like those sales guys on TV. Jonas started showing up in our conversations the way a cracked tile starts catching your sock. Now it was a sign in the lobby announcing she was engaged to Jonas, and a sheet of paper saying I'd signed away my garage work 3 years before I ever saw their corporate printer. I could have thrown a rock through a window. Could have stood in the lobby and hollered the word bigamy in my best town crier voice. You've probably seen that video. That guy doesn't get his life back. He gets charges. I did what a 59-year-old with a brain does. I called a lawyer, and then I called my niece. Evelyn, Evie, Claiborne is a forensic accountant in a world that pays well for finding money folks hoped you'd miss. She eats spreadsheets for breakfast, and she was mad on my behalf in that practical way accountants rage. She opened a notebook and put a date on the top. Uncle Russ, she said, you got 2 lanes, family and filings. Family hurts, filings heal. You're not going to win Maya back. You are going to win facts back. I also called Mr. Garner from across the street. Retired postal inspector. The kind of man who smiles with his eyes but has a spine like the San Jacinto Monument. He listened to me tell the sign-in engagement story, and he rubbed his jaw. Son, he said, he can call me that. They're not just cheating. They're laundering a lie. People commit a lot of fancy crimes when a SPAC clock's ticking. Money talks. Paper sings. Evie built a list on my fridge with a magnet from the tire shop. Prove the IP chain. Who owned what when. Find the earliest public record you can that shows your garage prototypes predate Luminera's formation. Prove the forgery. Notary stamp. Witness signatures. Weird timeline. Find a crack in the stamp. Follow the SPAC. They have to disclose IP risk, related party transactions, and grants. Someone's worried. Find them. Don't break laws. No hacking. Use what's public, what you own, or what you get with subpoenas. Once we sue. I walked into my garage like it was a church. Started pulling bankers' boxes out of the rafters. You ever open a box and your whole life's in it? Old yellow legal pads with my block letters. Dated. Grease smudges. A receipt from Willie's Hardware for 10 pump housings, June 2015. A photo, printed, of Maya holding the Mark II pump on our driveway at sunset. Hair pulled back, the grin that made me fall. Date stamped on the bottom right. An email, this one was gold, Maya had sent to a friend the day after that photo. Russ cracked it. He made it sing. We're gonna build this. Title, Influx Array V2. Timestamped Gmail. I never delete stuff. I sent myself a PDF backup of everything and mailed a thumb drive to Evie with a kiss on the envelope like a dork. The assignment letter in the divorce packet had a notary stamp. That's where Mr. Garner got excited the way old investigators do when they smell a rabbit. Notaries leave tracks. Texas requires journals. Stamps have commission numbers that tie to dates. Let's see whose this is. We blew up the stamp on my copier like teenagers making zines. Commission number 13209XX. Expiration, February 12th, 2025. He cross-referenced a public registry. This belongs to a Ms. Danielle Fox, he said, tapping the screen. Commission issued 2019. I blinked. But the assignment is dated 2016. He smiled like a man who just found a counterfeit 20. That means one of two things. Either a time traveler notarized this, or someone used a later stamp on an earlier date. That's not a mistake. That's fraud. We called Danielle. She answered on the second ring, sleepy. Saturdays are notary nap days. Mr. Garner put on his Sunday voice. Ma'am, we're trying to make sure your stamp wasn't misused. Do you recall notarizing a document for Luminera Therapeutics with the name Russell Claiborne in 2016? A pause. Sir, my commission started in 2019. I was teaching second grade in 2016. And I sure didn't notarize anything for a company. I do wills and car titles and once a guy's dog adoption, which was adorable. We thanked her, documented the call, had her email a letter stating exactly that. We had a seam now, a fraudulent notarization used to confirm that I had assigned my garage prototypes to their company 3 years before that notary had a stamp. Evie started tugging other threads. Luminera had gotten a big OL state economic development grant 2 years back. Rural access to care. If you take public money, you live in a glass house. Texas Public Information Act is a blessing if you know the handle. Evie filed requests for their application, their job creation reports, invoices attached. We started seeing numbers and names. Vendors paid by Luminera who sounded awfully familiar to Jonas's world. Hale Solutions LLC, Hale Ventures Advisory. Related party transactions are poison if you hide them during a SPAC. Meanwhile, I made the one phone call I didn't want to make, to Maya. I used the number that used to buzz on my nightstand and now probably lived in a purse next to a half-eaten protein bar and a portable charger. She answered like I'd called to reschedule a dentist appointment. Russ. Hey kid. I said before I could stop the old nickname. I stood in your lobby yesterday and met your fiancé's name on a balloon. She exhaled. I didn't want you to find out that way. How should I have found out, Maya? LinkedIn. Silence. We've been unhappy a long time. Unhappy isn't a bigamy defense. I swallowed that line. I got your packet. I also got an assignment letter with a 2019 notary stamp and a 2016 date. That's not we grew apart. That's a felony on stationery. Her voice changed. CEO tone engaged. You're confused about how IP works. I'm exactly unconfused about how dates work, I said. And how you stood on a stage in 2017 and told a TEDx crowd, quote, my husband Russ built our first pump on our driveway. There's a video, Maya. The internet never forgets. I don't want your company burned down. I want the truth written where you can't erase it. And then I want out. She went quiet long enough that I heard office sounds, soft shoes, glass door hush. You're going to ruin everything, she said, and that everything told me who she loved more. Herself, the company, the mirror. It wasn't new. It still hurt. No, I said. I'm going to ruin lies. I hung up because dignity is a resource we ration at my age. Next came the SPAC. Luminera had announced a deal with Aegis Arc Acquisition Corporation. Their lawyers had to produce a monster of a document that says this is who we are, this is what we own, this is how we'll not go to jail. They had pages in there about IP, about no known claims, about chain of title complete. I read that thing like I was studying for a test I wanted them to fail. It was full of forward-looking statements and cautionary language that would make a sailor fall asleep. But here's the thing about walls of text. They still fall if you pull the right brick. Evie slid me a name one night over takeout. Priya Kapoor. Program Manager. Been there since the broom closet days. Her LinkedIn is passive-aggressive, building in spite of obstacles. Change starts with courage. That's girl speak for board's a mess. I DM'd Priya like a dad who just learned what DM stands for. Hey, I'm Russ. You don't know me, but you do. I'm not here to blow the place up. I'm here to make sure the truth sits at the table when y'all go public. Coffee. She didn't answer for a week. Then she did. Burnett Road, Tuesday, 7 a.m. Don't be late. Priya was the kind of calm that makes tornadoes nervous. Hair in a clean bun, backpack, flats that mean business. She sat across from me with a coffee and said, You're not supposed to exist. That seems to be the new company line, I said. She gave a small smile. In the S4 draft, your name is a ghost. Early prototype provided by contractor. No name. No chain. Just a preposition. I've been called worse. I slid a folder across. Printouts of the garage, the dated emails, a still of Maya saying my name on a stage 6 years ago with a red dot on a carpet. Priya leafed. Her face didn't move, but I saw her shoulders drop. Relief, then resolve. Jonas is trying to push everything across the line, she said. He has a calendar with a red circle around dates like they're exams. The day after the merger closes, he gets a payout. Do you understand? He wants to buy a boat the size of a church. I want a sandwich and a nap, I said. But yes. She pulled out her phone and opened an app, the grants, she said. They're reporting jobs we don't have. They're invoicing Hale Solutions for regulatory strategy, which is Jonas's cousin with a Gmail address. They're paying a contractor who never pulled permits for our lab expansion. I begged. They smiled. I'm done begging. We're in Texas, I said. One-party consent. If you talk to him and record it, you're legal. But I'm not asking you to do anything that risks your job without a parachute. Priya looked at the window, at the sunrise starting to turn the parking lot gold. I'm not risking my soul for a man who thinks ethics is a latte order. She put her phone away. I'll send you what you need through counsel. Find a reporter with teeth. I called Cami Soto at the Austin Ledger. She's the kind of local business reporter who can turn a tax abatement into a Greek tragedy. 5'2" of appetite. I said 5 words and she said 3 back. On background. Bring receipts. We met at a taco truck. I brought her everything. FOIA responses, the notary letter, the S4 page where my life got turned into a preposition, Priya's internal memo with "we are not in compliance" circled. She didn't promise a front page. Real reporters don't promise your catharsis. She promised to read and ask the one question that matters in journalism. So what? So what was easy? If they go public with falsified IP chain and cooked grant numbers, thousands of retirees' pensions, because that's who buys chunks of SPACs whether they know it or not, are backing a time bomb. So what is a lot of nurses in rural clinics end up with a device whose quality got compromised because a CFO wanted to pay his cousin? So what is my wife stopped being Maya to me and started being CEO to herself? While Cami read, Evie and Mr. Garner helped me draft a litigation hold letter, fancy way to tell a company. Preserve everything, the shredders sleep. We sent it certified to Luminera, to the SPAC, to their counsel. They ignored my name before. They had to underline it now. Jonas called me like a man trying to sell me a timeshare. Russ. Buddy. We really ought to get in a room and make this go away. I'm old, Jonas. Please don't buddy me. He laughed a little too loud. Everything in this world is a negotiation. This isn't, I said. This is math. Dates, stamps, signatures. Look, he said, dropping his voice. I can get you paid. Clean. You like Airstreams? I know a guy. We do a simple release. And stick my name on a lie you're telling the SEC? No thanks. I've never been a yacht guy. He got mean then, the way soft men do when you take away Visa cards. You were a handyman. You should be grateful we let you into the grown-up room. Son, I said, easy as a Sunday. I built the table you eat at. The day I found out about the sign in the lobby, I was alone. The day the story turned, I wasn't. Truth is a lonely boy until receipts show up. Then it's prom king. That week turned into a parade of dominoes. The Texas Economic Development Office emailed Evie back. Given your concerns, we are initiating a compliance review. In government speak, that's bring coffee. This'll take a while. Priya sent my lawyer a memo she'd written months back titled Vendor Conflicts, Hale Entities. It had invoices stamped paid with wire confirmations. Evie matched wire dates to an options grant Jonas had given himself right after. Timelines aren't opinions. Cami published her story online at 6:03 a.m. on a Tuesday. Engagement, SPAC, and a missing inventor. Questions surround Luminera's IP chain and grants. No judgment, just facts. Just my name reduced to a garage inventor and spouse, now estranged. Which stung until I realized it made her look like what she was. A CEO engaged to a CFO with a messy table under the cloth. Luminara's board did what boards do when they smell liability. They formed a special committee. Their press release was frantic calm. We are committed to the highest standards. When a company says that, buckle up. The engagement party that started this? It had been rescheduled. Jonas loves optics, photographers, uplights, a speech where he says journey and family and vision. This time, they planned to roll the engagement with a SPAC-announced pep rally. Balloons in the shape of dollar signs. It's not my world, but I know its smell. Mr. Garner said, now. He printed 20 copies of the notary mismatch with a big red circle around 2016 and 2019. Evie printed the state grant jobs listed versus actual employees on an org chart. Priya's anonymous feed had given us the real headcount. My lawyer drafted a plain English cover page. Before you sign anything, read this. We addressed envelopes to each board member, to the SPAC committee chair, to the general counsel. We hired couriers with fresh shoes. I didn't walk into the party. Not my style. I stood across the street at a coffee shop with a window straight at the lobby, sipping something too sweet, and watched the envelopes go in. You ever see the exact moment a man's face learns a new fact? Jonas came into frame with a flute of something, saw a courier he hadn't invited, took the envelope, opened, read, and in slow time, his eyebrows did the math. He and Maya went behind the big plant and argued in faces, all chin and teeth and not enough blink. The board chair's mouth made an O that belonged on cartoons. Security guys looked at security guys. Uplight stayed on. Balloons bobbed, oblivious. At 7:19 p.m., I got a text from an unknown number that said simply, "We need to talk. Now." It was from the Luminara General Counsel. I let it sit for a beat, because petty tastes good for 3 seconds and then gives you a headache. I answered, "Tomorrow, 9 a.m., your office. Bring a court reporter. Old men don't bluff." We met in a room with glass walls and a conference table that could seat a quorum. Counsel on one side, me and my lawyer on the other. They had copies of everything. My receipts, the notary letter, the TEDx transcript, Priya's memo, which I did not admit to sourcing, Evie's FOIA stack. The counsel cleared his throat. "Mr. Claiborne, our position is that any early prototypes were covered under a marital property framework and belong to—" "Stop," I said, because I am a grown man with a spine. "Your position is that your CEO can get engaged to her CFO while still married, forge an assignment with a time-traveling notary, defraud the state on headcount, and you walk into the New York Stock Exchange like you belong there. My position is I build things that keep people alive, and I keep dates like I keep my tools, clean, labeled, accounted for." The board chair, a woman with eyes that have seen a lot, looked at me over steepled hands. "What do you want, Mr. Claiborne?" "3 things, I said, because a 3-point list makes suits comfortable. 1, correct the record. In your SPAC docs, in your grant filings, in any place my work shows up, my name, my dates, the chain of title that's true, not convenient. Credit the garage where credit is due. 2, stop the fake. Fire the conflicts. Audit the vendors. Pull the permits you skipped. If you're going to bring a device into a rural clinic, it will not be duct-taped ethics. 3, compensation. Not a bribe. A fair royalty for the use of the influx designs. Backdated to the first sale, standard license rate, no gag. I don't want a yacht. I want to build a community shop where kids learn to make things with their hands and their brains. And I want to sleep without the taste of lobby signs in my mouth." The chair leaned back. Counsel whispered to counsel. I looked at the window at a reflection of a man with lines in his face earned the hard way. Between then and now, while they whispered, I thought for a second about the night before our wedding when Maya and I slow danced in our kitchen in socks. I let that go like you let a helium balloon go on purpose. Watch it rise, don't reach. "We will need to pause the SPAC process," the chair said finally, and the counsel flinched because pausing costs money. She didn't care. "We will hire outside counsel to investigate the notary issue. We will engage an independent firm for a vendor audit." She turned to me. "As for the license, we can discuss terms." "My terms are in the packet," I said, tapping the stack. The meeting ended with no handshakes, but with eye contact that promised the world wouldn't pretend I wasn't there anymore. They walked out into a hallway where big words like vision were stenciled on walls in fonts that made me tired. I walked to the parking lot. The sky was the color of an old bruise, but light was coming. There's a feeling you get when you torque a bolt to just the right snug, firm, precise, no wobble. That's how it felt walking to my truck. It didn't wrap in a week. It never does. Cammy wrote follow-ups. The state sent compliance letters that read like a teacher's notes. Please explain discrepancy in head count and provide evidence of permit for Lab 2 build-out. Jonas resigned in a press release that thanked him for his service and vision and was released at 5:01 p.m. on a Friday because cowards love clocks. Priya got promoted under the special committee's wing. The SPAC withdrew to pursue other opportunities. Translation, they ran. Maya. She called me at 10 p.m. on a Tuesday, voice small, the way she used to be at 3 a.m. when experiments failed. You've ruined me, she said, and I could hear echo in some big empty place. I didn't ruin you, May, I said, because I still have that softness and I hate it, and I love it. You walked into a room with a match and gasoline and took a selfie. All I did was open the window and let the smell out. She cried. I didn't. I asked her a question I needed for my own selfish heart. Was there a moment you could have told me the truth? Any moment in the last year where your mouth formed my name and you decided not to. Silence. Then, I'm sorry. I know, I said. Be sorry to the people in your building who thought ethics was the job and realized politics was. Be sorry to yourself. Be better than the man you picked ring with. You want to know the part that felt like revenge? It wasn't Jonas leaving with a box of succulents and a PNL binder. It wasn't the headline Luminera pauses SBAC amid IP questions. It wasn't even the day a wire hit my account with a backdated royalty and a short license that said Influx Array Designs licensed from R. Claiborne inventor. The revenge was walking into my garage, cleaning off my workbench, and not tasting metal in my mouth anymore. I used that royalty to open a shop on the east side we called Third Rail. It's a makerspace with a mission. Teenagers with curiosity and nobody at home at 5 p.m., vets who miss having a unit, single moms who want to fix a washing machine instead of calling a guy who charges $89 to show up. We teach soldering, wood joints, basic Python for folks who think a snake is a rope with bad ideas. Every class starts with a story about chain of title. Who made this? Who gets credit? Put your name and the date on your work and tuck it where the world can see it. It's not bragging. It's a map back to you. Sometimes on Sundays, I drive by Luminera's building. The sign out front is boring now. Good. Boring is underrated. I stop into the taco truck where I met Cammy. I bring Mr. Garner a cinnamon roll because he says it helps his property tax arguing. I text Evie a dumb uncle meme because she saved me with math. I send Priya a thumbs up when a press release drops where the words independent audit appear near complete and compliance. I didn't burn the place down. Did I want to? Yeah. Who wouldn't? But here's the line you gotta hold if you want to look yourself in the mirror at 59. Revenge isn't wreckage. It's restoration. It's putting the right names back on the drawing. It's fixing a system lie with a lifetime of small truths. If you're in this far, let me shake your hand across the air. Maybe you walked into a lobby and saw a sign dressed up like a fairy tale with your life as the villain in the margins. Maybe your betrayal had balloons, or maybe it was just a memo in your inbox. Here's what you do, breathe. Count. Don't blow. Paper up. Get the notary number. Pull the permit. FOIA the grant. Talk to the one person inside whose eyes still look like hope. Call a reporter who eats buzzwords for lunch. Say your price out loud and make it reasonable enough to look fair and big enough to mean respect. Make them come to your table. And when it's done, because it ends if you do the math, don't build a gallows. Build a workbench. Teach somebody how to put their name and the date next to something they made. That's the only revenge that doesn't rot on you. I'm Russ Claiborne. I'm 59. I still have Maya's mother's locket in a velvet box. I didn't sell it or smash it. Some things you keep because they belong to a version of you that loved without clauses. I keep it in the top drawer next to a stack of receipts dated and signed. That drawer's my time capsule. Sometimes the loudest payback is a slam. Mine was a stamp, 2019 on a 2016 lie. And once you line up the dates and the names and the bolts and the boards, you get the best sound there is, the click of a truth seated right. You'll hear it when you're ready. It's quiet. It's enough.